I'm Kat.
And I'm Gabe.
And we're
The Ghouls Next Door. Talk about that spooky stuff
every day.
Yeah. And we're continuing our horror writer series for the spookiest month of the year,
We
October.
sure is.
And we started with the king of horror, Stephen King.
Yeah.
We had Shirley Jackson, which is she's a queen in her own right.
Yep.
And we covered Best Dad.
Yeah.
Best number one dad, Dean Koontz.
Number one, the best, awesome.
Yeah, and today we're talking about a woman who has paved her own way and honestly transformed an entire genre of literature.
Yeah.
And to the fact that it's really hard to not see the impact.
Uh-huh.
Like when you're looking, if anything to do with vampires, it's like you owe some thanks to Anne Rice.
Yeah.
Even if you hate Twilight.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've never been as we discussed in our actual vampires episode that was very specific to vampires, is I never really was on board.
Yeah.
With vampires, but I enjoyed Interview with a Vampire. I thought it was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into Anne Rice, who, I've always really loved vampires. It's always been a fun time for me. I think they're really interesting, even the brooding, sad ones. And she literally wrote the book on them. So it's going to be a fun ride to dive into what her motivations were and, what drove her to create this entire subgenre of horror literature.
Yeah.
That gave us things now we have True Blood and Vampire Diaries and Twilight as well, but ample amounts of sexy, brooding young vampires who are out here for love and not just luring and eating you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, facts. We tell you facts. All the facts. Here facts. Still facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff.
So let me tell you about Anne for a minute,
Yes.
Maybe more than a minute. We'll see where life
Several
takes us.
minutes.
Yeah. So I'll start with what I have. First, did you know
What?
that Anne Rice
Yes.
is not Anne Rice's real name? Yeah, so Anne is one of her many, what's the word when you write under a different name?
Pseudonym.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Essentially, when she was a little kid,
Yeah.
she decided, her name that she was born with was Howard Allen Francis O'Brien.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not what I was expecting you to say with your mouth when you said that. I was like, her name is Susan. She hated it.
Yeah,
But
no,
Howard,
no.
okay.
Yeah, her name was Howard. And when she was in kindergarten, when you start a new school or whatever, you're just they don't know that that's my name. I'm going to camp, and maybe my name is Kate now instead of being Katie.
Yeah.
So she went from Howard to Anne. She just told her teacher that her name was Anne now.
Yeah, and that's believable.
That's what it was.
Because I feel like the teacher would probably have double-taked if she was like, oh, yeah, I'm Howard. And she would have been like, what? But her being like, no, I'm Anne. The teacher was like, oh,
okay,
yes.
yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's
Or
nice of
just
her.
was like, I understand you don't want to be called Howard.
Yeah.
Anne's fine.
Yeah.
One, it's less letters.
Yeah.
I've decided that makes it easier.
I can write it better.
Yeah.
As a kindergartner.
It is only 4 letters.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to write in kindergarten. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that. And
Also,
I teach.
how bold of this kindergartner. Because you're at kindergarten age, you're so, willing to just go along with whatever is given to you. She probably wouldn't even know that that's a problem. That Howard is a different name than, people would think, right?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that she was so aware of herself. And was like, no, actually, I'm Anne.
Yeah.
And the teacher's like, yeah, sounds right. And her parents were like, all right.
It's I say that you've made this choice.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That's dope.
Yeah. So, that's fun fact comes to us from Adrian Rivera's 6 Interesting Facts About Anne Rice. And from there, I will give you a few more interesting facts about Anne Rice that are clearly stated in the article that person wrote. So, creativity runs in the family. in
Nice.
that, which is the title of number 3.
Nice.
That Stan Rice, Anne Rice's husband.
And Fran Rice, another one they can have.
No.
No, just Stan and Anne.
Well, okay, so Anne was Anne O'Brien before she was Anne Rice.
Anne Rice.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
if
what's
she was
sad
choosing Anne.
is that their couple name is just Stan,
Yeah,
but with
it
an
is.
E.
It's still Stan.
but with an E at the end.
Yeah.
Nice.
Stan. Yeah.
No,
No?
it's
Okay.
just Stan.
Cool. But yeah, he's also a writer. And he actually he didn't use, that sounds awful. The unfortunate reality that happened was their daughter died.
Yes.
And both Anne and Stan used that like trauma to fuel their literary work.
Oh, absolutely.
And he wrote poetry specifically, and then like a book of poems. And, you know, it won an Edgar Allan Poe Award.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were both talented.
He's a spooky babe all by himself, or was.
Yeah. I don't know if it was specifically about spooky stuff, but I guess to win an Edgar Allan Poe Award, it has to be a
Maybe
little
some
bit
kind
spooky.
of that, yeah.
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 But that's something that was like really instrumental in like, not her becoming a writer because she already was one, but that like she really used that awful event to like their outlet for that pain was to write Interview with a Vampire, which was one of her most successful works. It was like the starter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that is like when you have the death of a child, a lot of the times that breaks up a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that it brought them together because they were both able to have an outlet for their pain in like this way that was healthy and that they could like support each other in that way is really awesome. Because I know he really greatly supported, just like we've kind of seen as a trend in this series, is that we have these spouses who are like, no, I believe in you. You're going to keep trying. Because he was the one who was like, no, keep writing, and read her books and like pushed her to do it and like did that to do that despite like the pain that they must have been under is phenomenal.
Yeah, and it seems like that they've had like a good relationship from what I have read. And also like Anne herself, as like you would expect someone who has something so awful happen to them. And this wasn't what caused her conflict with religion, but like in tandem was going through like a rocky road spiritually as well. So she started out Catholic when she went like off to school, essentially started to question and disagree with like organized, I guess, sort of religion, and decided she was atheist, and then went back, and you see like a revival of religious work. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But then was like, nah, I don't like church though, because they're not nice to people in an organized sense. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I feels that spirituality without organized religion positive in my book. So cool, Anne.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that myself, because that's something I similarly grew up with, where I was raised very religious. And then what I found was like I didn't really go to church, and it wasn't really an institutional thing. But I was like, I don't really get behind those people, but like Jesus I get. Like be nice to people, have some rules to follow, like have support when things get rough. And you know, really stick to things with that kind of support from the spiritual standpoint. So like that I totally get in her being like but this other stuff, you know?
Like this part, you hate the gays.
Yeah, it's like Martin Luther definitely understood when he was like, here's all the stuff you're doing, stop spending everyone's money on your gold. And he got it, he figured it out all the way back
you're
then.
like, Catholicism seems a little corrupt maybe. The popes seem to have a lot of money going on. You can pay money to be forgiven for sins?
That doesn't seem right.
Seems problematic.
Seems counteractive to the line of like, it's easier for a rich to put a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get in heaven.
Yeah.
We're all forgetting that, though, in today's political climate.
Yep. I don't think anyone that's currently alive today is going to heaven. And I don't know if that's, I just kind of
Not by
feel
those
that way.
rules.
Because it's a society, in terms of religiousness, I feel like we're very flawed.
Religiousness.
I made up a word, just let
Beautiful,
it
I love
happen.
it. Yeah.
I also used grammar incorrectly before, and you didn't stop.
I just let you do what you gotta do.
It's a episode about writers. You're supposed to
I
correct.
don't know. I just feel like you just need to let stuff out sometimes.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
here
true.
to support.
I have to teach kids all
I'm
day, so I have to talk real good and nice and not incorrect times because babies and
Yeah.
they're influenced by the words I speak.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have to be like, what? You
Yeah.
just pronounce things, and
I
you
just
have
thought
to
of
like
something really funny.
what? Say words.
That stands Anne. You get, because I stand.
I get it. Yep, yep.
Because I
Young
was
people
going to say,
speak.
I'm the stand to your Anne right now, but I was like, I stand. Okay, I stand. I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to use it properly because it's not proper English. I stand. That's it. That's all I have.
Excellent.
Okay.
But yeah, one thing, I mean, as you could tell here on the Ghouls,
Yep.
is we had a very large affinity for Dean and Steven, and even Shirley. And we like Anne, but like, we're not as excited,
No.
but I'm still going to do it justice to the best
Yeah.
of my abilities.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's okay for us not to like super hardcore fangirl over everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's like, even though we're not, lots of other people are. So
Yeah.
she has like a very strong following, like a cult level kind of
Oh,
following of the
absolutely.
like vampire saga of
Yes.
sorts. And then also just like the like spookiness, you know,
Yeah.
like kind of making spookiness a layer within our own society.
Yeah.
Like, so she has a lot, like she's inspired a lot of like events that are annual, like Halloween bashes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's inspired a lot of like spooky times. And as you'll talk about, you know, an entire genre version of vampire life.
Yeah.
So, well, one, Anna's very active on her Facebook page, so I thought
Yeah.
that was cute. She like always really interacts with whoever, like her fans. So she like kind of cultivates the cult.
Yeah. She
She's just-
cultivates.
Yeah.
That's it.
So she's like, I'll respond to them. They
Yeah.
like me. It's cool.
Hi, Anne. I hope you're listening.
Yeah, and her website was fun. But yeah, she was kind of like set up to be a writer. This comes from her website, where her and her sister were kind of groomed to be writers by not spending time in other countries and all that other stuff, or interning in publishing houses. They didn't do any of that. But her father was a writer.
Mm.
In the sense that he went to World War II and was gone for a really long time.
Yeah.
And essentially reintroduced himself to his daughters by writing a story for them.
Mm.
And it was really cute that he was just like, it was called The Impulsive Imp.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
And it was
cute.
a story like basically reintroducing himself to
Yeah.
his kids who hadn't seen in a minute. And I guess that like influenced them in a really deep way that made them want to write
Yeah.
and become writers.
To see like a work of like literature or just writing that symbolizes and has a purpose outside of just like, this is for fun.
Yeah.
Is like a thing. Like I have a friend who actually wrote a book for to introduce herself to her partner's kid, because it was like before they met them, and it was like they made this book so that the kid would like know who they were and understand that they were gonna like become a part of this like situation and would like
Yeah.
you know, be a new friend, right? And like learn about them. And it was super sweet and was like just like this. When I heard about it, I was like, that's such an interesting and fun way to
Yeah.
like before you even meet the kid, like here's a friend that's gonna come from the book and be in real life now. Like now you can have a real friend.
Babadook.
No, no.
He's in the book now, he's real.
No. That's dangerous.
I'm just saying that's my logic.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying, Anne has like a very specific style that it doesn't necessarily mean that I love it. because it's like, it's kind of hard. It is a very specific type of literature. But growing up, I remember seeing like her books and seeing like the covers and being like, those look really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like the vampire Lestat. I'm like, ooh, what's that? I
love vampires.
Yeah, I was like, ugh. But I never like picked them up, and I don't know why. And I did try to read some. I tried to read the Vampire Lestat, which is one of the more recent ones after her hiatus, which I'll talk about. But I think it's after the hiatus. But what I found was interesting in it, and something that is replicated throughout all of her literature, is so she has in this, so it's Lestat, who we'll talk about more in depth when we get to our facts or our films section, because we're in the facts section. So Lestat is the vampire that we mostly see, right? And at this point in time, he's living in a somewhat modern-ish world where there's this vampire that has a podcast, which is cute because we have a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
And we're vampires too.
What? Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. Have you ever seen us outside in the sunlight?
Not me, only Gabe.
Yes. What I thought was cool was with this podcast, he uses it as a tool to like communicate with the other vampires.
Okay.
And kind of create this kinship and this kind of understanding and to be support for them. So what you find in Anne Rice's work when it comes to the vampires is that there's this theme of these like lost, like overwhelmingly human vampires. Like they are just so like overwhelmed with their need for like a purpose. They need to have a higher being telling them what to do. They need to understand why they are this way and why they feel this way and why they have to get up every day and do the same, or every night and do the same thing kind of. And that they, at this point in the story, they feel completely abandoned by any leadership that they've ever had. So like Akasha has been murdered, I guess, or just like gotten rid of because she was doing bad stuff. And so there seems to be really bad things with father figures in the sense of like people who turn you just sometimes leave and then you're left on your own to your own devices. And so through this podcast, he's able to reach a bunch of the vampire population to kind of give them hope. And what's funny about it is that all the like humans who listen just think it's like this kitschy, like fun, like podcast.
Wow, it's so dedicated.
Yeah, they're like, wow, they really like the guy must know Japanese because late at night, like they'll get like phone calls in from Japanese, in quotations, like vampires, and he's talking to them somehow, and wow, he's really dedicated. That's so funny. Which is such a opposite kind of, like they're hiding in plain sight, which is exactly what we see in Interview with the Vampire. Yeah. Where we had the troupe who were like murdering on stage, which we'll talk about.
And people were like, oh, that's such great art.
It was like, wow, they're so dedicated. The blood looks real. It's like, it is, you dum-dums.
Yeah, they just literally murdered that girl.
Yeah. But this, like, what I found was interesting. So, as you mentioned before, Anne had been very religious growing up and had been raised in the church. And then at about 18, she left the church, like Christianity or Catholicism. But she left the church and was like, no. Like, I don't get that. I don't want to mesh with that. Organized religion is the whole thing. And she wrote Interview with the Vampire after the loss of her daughter, which is also like a time when you're like, is there even a God if like they could do this? Like, you know, like what kind of God could do that, right? So at her time of writing this was very lost. Yeah. And so she was writing these characters that showed that part of humanity, right? It's like our need for that and our need for community. Like that's what the vampires are always looking for. Yeah. And that's what they fall victim to every time, is like that they try to connect and they're just, these are the only other people who are going to understand you. Yeah. And so there was a point in time where she found religion again, you know, and she had accepted Christianity. And so she stopped writing vampire books for a long time. And it was that she felt like she just didn't have those feelings anymore. Like she didn't have a reason to write it that way.
Yeah.
So instead she wrote like more Christian books and wrote that for a long time and had still sworn off
Yeah.
vampire novels. And then when the church was more out about being homophobic
Yeah.
and being against like basic human rights, she was like, nope, can't do this. One, because like a lot of her fans in her cult essentially, right, had written to her over the years that her characters really spoke to them and allowed them to like find a person to live through, because her characters were like the outcasts of society, who were like trying to just like live their lives and love themselves, and we're also like beautiful and sexual and not like afraid to be sexual, like not afraid to embrace those things in them. And so they like wrote to her like, you really helped me have this. So she's like, there's no way that like I can shun what gave me the attention that I got. Also a series that like helped me through a dark time and means so much to my fan base for this like organized religion that is blatantly like attacking them. And also her son, she was like, I can't like go against him as well. So she kind of like left that. She left the organized religion. She's still religious or spiritual. And then she brought back her vampire books again. But even the books themselves have such a unique thing to them. So they kind of what is the word I'm looking for? Transformed. They transformed vampire lit. And the reason for that, or the ways in which that happened, is when you think about Dracula, it was written from the point of view of everybody else but Dracula. So it's just Dracula who is just the evil big bad who's like sexy and charming, and he just wants to eat this poor virginal woman who's like wrapped up in him, and everyone like falls victim to his charm, and he's just this villain. Like he just comes in, he has no motives, really. He has no feelings. He's just in here to eat you and turn into a bat and be weird, right? And so, like, that's, like, nothing. I think it's funny because, like, when I would grow up reading, like, Twilight or watching Vampire Diaries, my guardian at the time was like, these aren't vampires. I remember, like, the vampires I remember were, like, sexy and elusive. And when I first started, I was thinking, like, oh, does she mean, like, Dracula? Because I get, like, Bela Lugosi is sexy. Like, that was his whole thing. But she wasn't even thinking that. What she's thinking is Interview with the Vampire. She's thinking Lestat. You know, like, she's thinking Louis even. Like, they have, like, they're over beautiful. They're so, like, powdered and perfect. But they were, like, sexy in this, like, moody way. And so when Anne wrote these monsters, like these traditional monsters, they weren't monsters anymore. They were just, like, exaggerated, highly emotional people. And so they got voices. They got, like, a lot. That's the majority of what her writing is, which is why it's hard for me to, like, get into, because it's just not my style of, like, reading.
It's just a lot of, like, narration, essentially.
And it's, like, I don't, like, super love Lestat either, so I was like, I don't really want to hear him and hear him talk about himself a bunch. But the stories themselves are, like, super legit, and that's why I'm like, I love these movies, because I get to, like, experience what the story is without having to, like, be sad that I can't, like, get through the book myself. But people really love it, right? But because we got this, like, point of view of these vampires, because we got to have emotional, like, deep vampires who are, like, you know, they feel guilty. Right? Like, if, like, when you see, like, Louis, he's, like, the perfect brooding vampire that led the way for, like, the Edward Cullens of the world. Like, he literally is, like, out
he's
there.
Not hanging out in high schools.
But I feel like he would have. Like, I really do. Like, I feel like he would have been like, okay, I'm going to go hang out with some peers, and then I can write poetry and no one's going to judge me, kind of thing, right? Like, he's out there eating animals instead of feeding on people, just like Edward did. And, like, if he found some lowly human who was, like, mournful and plain and a nothing, sorry, Stephanie Meyer, but you wrote a trash person. But I feel like if Louis found someone like that, he wouldn't have been as sad. He would have been a little less brooding, a little more loving, I guess. But it essentially paved way for those, like Stefan Salvatore writing his diary
Yeah.
Vampire Diaries. Like that guy would not exist
Yeah.
if Anne Rice had not written Interview with the Vampire.
She started it all.
Yeah, even like True Blood. There's a lot in like New Orleans already. We're there. Like when I hear the stat, I'm hearing yeah, man, it's so good. Right? Like, can you see that? Can you see like those stats? Like he's literally just there's so many trends in there where there's even names that are taken from Interview or from the Vampire series to True Blood, where like when I was listening, I was like, oh my gosh, they totally just like took that from already existing Vampire Lit. And I mean, everyone knows how much I love True Blood because it's dope.
Yeah.
And you got addicted to. I showed you how cool it was.
It was cool. I stopped watching that because I stopped watching stuff. That's how I live.
Also, we no longer have HBO.
That's fair.
So that'll do it.
Well, thanks. You're helping.
Yeah,
Me feel less bad about not doing a thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I would have still been watching it over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like an interesting thing that she did was like, one, she used this monster, totally transformed it. We talked about how monsters represent not just like a big bad, but they represent like a minority and like a group of people who are in need, like who need attention, who need a purpose, who need life. Yeah, validation. And she did that in this really awesome way that has now transformed all of Vampire Lit. And she also wrote erotic works.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about this movie, like, what?
Yeah, which I think is really funny, only because like when you see like when I would read like these, I can't remember where it was, but there was like these interviews with her, and they'd like bring up their and she'd be like, and she's like, it was like older woman. She's like, I just don't know where it comes from, but it just like gets out of me, and then it's there, and it's like Anne, and
what are you doing?
It's like really intense erotic lit. Like it's not like
it's not light.
Yeah,
it's doing
it. Not light at all. It's very like S&M, BDSM type, and it's like I read erotic fiction, but even still, I sometimes feel a little too feminist for it, and that like I will get uncomfortable or I'll get angry when there's like the woman in it who's like she's like, I'm the tough attorney and I kick butt all day. And then she'll like end up like hooking up with this dude who tells her what to do and like orders her around, and she'll like do it. She'll all of a sudden become submissive, and then he like gets off on it, and then I'll be like, ugh. Like I'll be like, ugh, why, really? And I'll be like completely like out of the story now.
Yeah.
So like I have a hard time with certain erotic lit, so I'm very much not a person who's into that. But she wrote some really interesting S&M that I just wanted to like kind of just shine a little bit of light on, because I think our listeners need to hear just like, so when I found out about it, I was like, well, I need to look this up. And so I Wikipedia searched. She has a group of novels, a trilogy that's based loosely off of Sleeping Beauty, and that the character's name is Beauty, and it's in like a similar time and location. So I was like reading like these synopses, and I sent some to Kat. So I'm just going to read some to you guys so you could hear them. So this one is, Beauty is taken to the harem and is mounted on the phallus of a bronze statue. She is then greeted by Inanna, one of the Sultan's wives, with whom she copulates, and is shocked to discover that Inanna's clitoris has been surgically removed. Fun fact, I know a burlesque dancer named Inanna, but I can't tell you if she still has her clitoris. I think she does. My guess is she does. Here's one. Tristan is bound and harnessed as a pony with a tail plugged in his rear and made to pull Nicholas's cart while being whipped, which is the time. Tristan is in a lot, and he is quite constantly a pony. Yeah. He is like most of the time a pony in some degree. They're like always getting sold off, and then they do this like switch of who's a sub and who's a dom, which is really interesting because I didn't know that happens. And I'm still not sure if that's a norm, but they do that a lot where they're like, now I'm the dom, and I'm like, what? Here's the last one I'll read you guys. Tristan answers, after some hesitation, that he loves anyone who punishes him, no matter how crude or lowly they are, and desires the loss of his self amid all the punishments, eventually becoming the punishments himself. Nicholas is moved by the answer, and after frantic intercourse, confesses to him that he is in love with Tristan.
I really like frantic intercourse.
Yeah, because it's, he's driven by the emotions so strongly.
Frantic.
Frantic love. And, I mean, Tristan didn't love him that way.
Spoilers!
Spoilers to this trilogy that has been out for some time. Beauty eventually has to go back home because she's ordered to marry someone because she's royalty. And then it turns out Tristan is royalty. So they get married, and then it's like they get to switch between being sub and dom and just like live in this like, I guess, loving relationship.
Cool.
And are somehow not like needing therapy from all of the slavery. So that's cool. So I just
She's royalty. How did that happen?
I couldn't tell you. She was just sold off a lot. And then they were like, oh, wait, we forgot.
You're a princess.
Your dad died, so now you gotta go be the queen. And it's like, wait, huh?
Why was he looking for you? I
didn't read them. I read
Wikipedia. Been somewhere far away.
Yeah. Or maybe he was asleep. The whole kingdom's supposed to be asleep. Sleeping Beauty. But she's awake now, so I don't know. Anyway, that was just a little glimpse into Anne's erotic lit, if that's your thing. I didn't try it yet, but I imagine it's not the same way the vampires are not in this sense. So stay tuned for more vampires.
Films. We watch some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff.
All right, so we watched stuff.
We did.
So we watched Interview with the Vampire.
Yep, 1994.
Which I guess was a really fun time where we just made movies about pretty boys who cried like a lot and ran away in sewers.
There were others?
No, they all kind of did it. I don't know. But yes, so Interview with the Vampire is directed by Neil Jordan, and it was written by Anne Rice.
Yep.
As well as the novel was. And it is about a vampire tells his epic life story. Love, betrayal, loneliness, and hunger.
Yep.
And just a little fun fact for everyone who's listening. Kat didn't know that it was Tom Cruise for the entire movie. It was literally the last 5 minutes, and she was like, is that Tom Cruise? No, she didn't know.
I did not think it was Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
you told me, and I was like, excuse me?
I was like,
that is not Tom Cruise.
I know.
That man is blonde.
Yeah.
I did not even kind of see Tom Cruise until you showed me like a photo of Tom Cruise and held it up to the TV.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That's weird. I also feel like this series is make fun of cat time.
It's a little bit make fun of cat time.
Well,
it's funny about it because it was like, so I had been reading the Vampire Lestat, which takes place after the events in Interview with the Vampire. So when like he kept like dying, spoiler alerts, I was like, he can't be dead. And then I was like, what? And so I was like, where's Lestat? And Kat's like, who? And I was like, okay, first of all, he's like the main character, one of the main characters here. And I was like, Tom Cruise. And she's like, Tom Cruise is in here? I was like, what?
When is he in here? Was he one of the vampires at the place that lit the things on fire?
He's the papa. And she's like, no. She's like, this guy is blonde and is tall and has different eyebrows.
He had very different eyebrows.
I was very confused.
I didn't realize it was also Kirsten Dunst. I was like, that child looks kind of like Kirsten Dunst. And you said it to me at the beginning of the movie.
I did.
Kirsten Dunst is in this movie, but I'm expecting like full grown.
No, I said Kirsten Dunst as a child.
I stopped listening at the end.
Because I was like, Kirsten Dunst, this is like, she is a child in this movie. It's really great. And then we're watching. And there's like the whole time, like it's well into, like Kirsten Dunst's character has already been established.
Like, this child is a really great actress.
And then she goes, she looks like Kirsten Dunst. I was like, yeah, because that is. What are you talking? Like, she said it like it was her idea. Like, she came up with it this whole time. Like, oh, Gabe, did you ever think about how this young actress looks like Kirsten Dunst in that time when you told me there was a child actress named Kirsten Dunst who was going to be in this movie? You also
I mean,
didn't
you
believe
win
me when it was
some, you
Brad
lose
Pitt
some.
either.
It doesn't look like any of them. They all look different.
Don't put pretty. They were very prettied. Like Brad
Yeah.
Pitt was like super pretty. Like he
Yeah.
was like glowing. He had like Snapchat filter on
All the
him.
time,
and his lips
yeah.
were like a little puckered. So in that film I was like, I get it. Like I've never really understood like the fascination with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And like people being
He was
like,
pretty in
he's
this
so
movie.
hot, and I'd be like, he just kind of looks like a dad.
Yeah, he's always looked like a dad.
Yeah, even in like Fight Club, I was like, he kind of just still looks like a dad. And in this, I was like, oh, he's so pretty. I get it.
He could model, maybe.
I was like, look at those cheekbones.
Yeah.
They're so rosy.
Yeah.
It's like, he's so charming. It's like, even when he's being the worst.
Yeah.
So the story is that we have Louis, who is Brad Pitt, and he's really depressed, and he just like really wants to die. So in a response to that, Lestat, the genius that he is like, how about live forever?
Yeah, that's what you want, right?
You keep wanting to die. How about this? The direct opposite of that. You want infinite void and nothingness? How about that, but you're alive now? Forever. And no one will ever love you. Yay. And he's like, he turns him, and he was like, you have to be sure. And then he's like, yeah, I'm dying right now. I don't know what's happening. And then he turns.
He was
and
also drunk.
Yeah, he was like severely messed up. And like, I feel like almost immediately he was like, no, wait. Go back.
That's the opposite. I said the wrong
I
one.
want to do the other thing.
Check yes or no. I accidentally said yes.
I didn't do the CAPTCHA right. I can't tell which one is the stop sign and which one's just the corner.
There are too many traffic lights.
Does this count as a car?
It's kind of far away. My glasses aren't on. It might be a traffic light. I missed it.
Yeah. And so he becomes the most sad, morose Edward Cullen vampire that ever lived.
I didn't think he was that bad.
Oh, he just whined the whole time.
I know, but like what Lestat was doing was pretty bad. So
He was just being a vampire.
I know, but like he was being like real not like he's like you just need to get over it already, and it was like that's not how trauma works, man.
Until it was like hundreds of years later, or not hundreds, but a significant time later, and he was still acting like that, and I was like, all right, listen, kid. Like, you're gonna be like this forever. So we do have to kind of like
eventually
get with the
over
program.
It. Like, stop looking at me like I'm evil. Like, I got the frustration. It was just like, also.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like
was
if I
not
was
a
a
good
vampire, I would never be cool with it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Unless I turned
Yeah.
everyone I love.
Unless you were allowed to stay inside all the time because of the sun.
I just play Metal Gear all the time. Or Persona 5.
Yeah, you would just hate it though because you're not allowed to go outside.
Yeah, then I would want to just because I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
I would go outside at night.
Yeah. But you'd be like, wow, remember what the sun was?
Yeah, I do like
That was a cool time. Yeah. But Louis was like whiny the whole time. And I understand because Lizette was like the worst dad.
Yeah,
Like
he
he's
was really
like, just
mean.
get it. Like he was not loving, which is like an interesting thing because like later the other movie we'll talk about, he seems way more like he would understand like a problematic father figure. Like he would be like, oh, let me be better than my father. But you know, it's a circle. You know.
Yeah.
It just what is it? I forget what it's called. Where's the snakey in his own tail? Whatever. He's just doing problematic
Double-edged
things.
sword?
No, it's a thing. Anyway, there's a whole thing where Louis had like a plantation because he's from Louisiana, and his slaves, so he's already a bad guy, we know this, figured that something's wrong.
Yeah.
He's been eating people's dogs, but Lestat has been out there eating people. And so they like try to like pretty much like Frankenstein's town him. Like, you know, and so he ends up burning the whole plantation to the ground along with his slaves. And then they run off and they're doing stuff.
He didn't burn all the slaves.
He did, yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm.
That's messed up.
Yes.
They did not show that accurately in the film then. Well, I guess because you wouldn't.
Yeah. It's hardly in the show.
Oh, yeah. It would have been worse if they showed it.
Yeah, it was already a bad time.
But I
having
did
him
not
there.
pick up on that just from watching it. You know what I mean? Like, it seemed like they were outside, so they're cool. They can run away now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see that.
That's bad.
But
He's a bad guy.
he's like really sad and he like runs and he runs into Kirsten Dunst and I can't remember her name for the life of me in there. Claudia,
yeah.
I think that's her name. And she, her mom had just died from
Of
plague. And so she's like just looking, and then he like just comes up like all behind her, real creep style, and she kind of like slowly turns around and is just like completely unfazed by this strange man who's in her house now. And he's like,
oh, hi.
"Oh, are you here to fix Mother?" And she's like, "She hella dead, and no, I'm gonna eat you now." So he like attacks her, and he gets real sad. He runs away after eating her, and he's in the sewer just crying over his rat lunch. And the stat's like, "Listen, can you just come back? I've got you a present. You're looking real pathetic in here. And I unfortunately care about you. Can we just come back?"
Unfortunately.
It's really, really unfortunate that I turned you, of all people I could have turned in the history of the world. I chose you, Louie, who's going to be miserable the entire time. And he brings it back, and then they turn her. And what I thought was interesting with her is that she is young forever.
Yeah.
Right?
It was a really emotional experience.
Yeah, and I had watched Interview with the Vampire when I was younger, and the one scene that I remember, because I don't remember anything else, because I was like too young.
Yeah.
But what I remember was, here's cutting her hair.
Yeah.
And then running away, and then it grew back.
Yeah.
And it was like, she's so trying, and I was like, oh my God, we never think about consequences. Like, you never really think about like what's actually going to happen and what are the repercussions of your actions.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of even like in True Blood, when you have Jess, the character who gets turned when she's a virgin. So every time she has sex, her hymen grows back. And so she's virgin, quotations, because it's a lie.
Yeah.
Virginity is a lie. And so she like, it's like a thing where she has to keep doing it. I remember watching the show and being like, wow, what? I wouldn't ever think of that. Like all those times I was reading like Twilight and I was like, take me away. I would have been super screwed. And like, or the opposite. I mean, not screwed because I'd be a virgin.
Yeah.
But I was like, what? But another thing about that character, right, and the fact that she is young forever, and the fact that Anne was writing this at a time after her daughter's death, that this is very clearly could represent her daughter in and of itself, right? Like she never got to grow up.
Yeah.
She never got to be the adult that she's like aspiring to be in there, and is like condemned forever to be this porcelain doll that is just like the wisp of a person. And it's like she's literally just there to be the daughter to Louis, right?
Yeah.
One thing I really enjoyed was that they never did anything weird, because the fact that she's growing up mentally, she would become an adult, right? Yeah, not physically. And they never once were like, now she's getting like adult feelings for Louis. They never did that. Like it was always like a father-daughter relationship where I was like, thank God. I was really worried. I was like, this could go so bad because it's 1994 and there weren't any rules.
Yeah.
Like people didn't know that was wrong. Like they knew it was wrong, but it would have been like, it's art. Of course, she's growing up. But they kept her as a young person, even when she's more hungry. She takes quicker to being a vampire than Louis ever did. But in that's still very childish, right? Like she has no control, no constraint. She doesn't have she has no concept of what consequences because she's a kid. And so I think it's pretty cool that she was able to show that on in the story and in the book in the film.
No, it was a good time.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool things in there that I didn't know. But it was very long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt long. It had one of those, it was one of those movies where it's like, there was a point where it could have ended and everyone would have been like, okay. And then it kept going and you're like, okay. Oh yeah, their guy was interviewing him.
And we're back. And what's funny about that, because there's the boy, because in the book, he doesn't have a name. But it's Christian Slater, if anyone's listening. And he, after all this, Louis tells this mournful, sorrowful, sad story where
losing everything he cares about.
Yeah, Claudia dies. He finds Armand, who's this really attractive Hispanic vampire played by
Spy Kids.
No,
Antonio Banderas.
No, you cannot call him Spy Kids.
That's just how I fondly remember him.
Antonio Banderas, who, a fun fact, my mom told my sister when she was young that was her dad,
Yeah.
and like convinced her so hard that like there was a time when I don't know, maybe we were watching Spy Kids, we were watching some movie, and she was like, "That's my dad," and my mom was like, "Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. That sure is the answer." And I was like, "Mom, you can't tell her that." So Antonio Banderas is our dad for some reason. You get one. You get one celebrity, and that's my mom's choice. But he's in there looking all suave. And he becomes like his best friend. They go through this whole thing, and he's all alone now. And he tells Christian Slater. And after all this really sad story, Christian Slater's like,
Cool, let me do it.
"Yeah, cool. Now my turn. I want to be a vampire." And he's like, "Were you not listening
I just said
to
it's
this
awful.
entire time? It sucks." And he's like, yeah. I'll be whatever, your friend. Let's go." He's like, "No." And then like later in the movie, Lestat's still alive and like attacks him, which is like nice. In the book, the boy goes after like looking for Lestat because he's like, "Lestat will mess up any. Like Lestat doesn't care. He'll give me whatever I want." And it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense. We watched another thing.
Yes.
Queen of the Damned,
Yes.
2002. Director Michael Reimer. Written by Anne Rice, obviously. And novel by Anne Rice.
Yes.
So, the vampire Lestat becomes a rock star whose music wakes up the queen of all vampires.
Played by Aaliyah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Which was such a fun time to watch because I was still a little too young to like get it and get who she was to that degree. And it was really like at one point we actually had to like Google it. We're like, how old is she here? Because like I remember young Aaliyah.
Yeah.
So like to think of her as being like a 20-something who's like super over sexualized, but in an empowering way, like she was like, "No, this is who I am," and like was like like just turned people dust, didn't care. She did a decent job for it being like one of her first acting things.
Yeah. She had a weird accent.
Yes, I couldn't place it, but I didn't know if that was just like because she's supposed to be from something else. Like
It seemed like, so I think what made it weird was that it sounded like they put her voice just twice.
yeah,
Or they put like a deep voice on top of her voice.
plus, yeah, they did do that. Plus, she was doing an accent. That I don't think she really knew what it was. Like, I don't think she listened to a different accent to then learn what to do.
I think she
they
just
were like,
did it.
"Do an accent. You're from an ancient place that's possibly Egyptian, because that's the kind of vibes we're getting here. So do that." And she's like, "I think Egyptians sound like this. I've never been there." So she just kind of did it. But it was believable because you're like, yeah, she sounds like a god from a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's not Tom Cruise as Lestat, because we needed like a younger rock star Lestat, and Tom Cruise just can't.
No,
he can't be pulling
he's
that
too busy
off.
jumping on couches.
I guess
Doing Scientology.
Yeah. And I wonder. It would be so weird to see Tom Cruise next to Aaliyah. That would have been really gross, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would
I
not.
don't
It
like
would have
that
been weird.
at all. Age is more than just a number. Just so everyone knows. R. Kelly. So in it, we have Lestat, who's being rebellious.
Yeah.
Like a teenager. Which is interesting because this takes place after he was like the evil dad to Louis.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? I
It
think
was
so,
very
anyway.
different in the film. It was just very different.
Yeah.
It was like, is this the same one?
Yeah,
Is
he
this the
seems
same
so
Lestat?
different. He gets turned in like a similar to Louis way where he's not fully sure, but he also doesn't get a choice. He just is turned. And he's just like a spoiled like teenager who's living in this like cool castle away from the
He
world.
was like aristocrat.
Yeah. And then and his dad's like this cool vampire, but then he like plays music real sick and it almost wakes her up and the dad just abandons him. Like no, like not
Well,
like
no,
this,
he has to take Aaliyah away.
yeah, but he doesn't give him like a lot of explanation. Like he really just left him.
Yeah.
And then like never came back to find him.
Yeah.
And it's like so he has like abandonment issues and like runs away and eventually becomes a rock star. And in kind of like the way in the first one where we had, so there was like a play, an interview with the vampire where there's vampires who would like put on a play and then they would eat a girl in front of everyone, but everyone just thought it was a play.
Yeah.
Like instead in this, it's like they lure like fangirls.
Yeah, who are like, oh my gosh, he's so hot. I bet you he's gonna bite me.
And then
He
does.
like, but not
a
in the
lot.
way she wanted in this scenario.
It was very bad bites. But he's like, I don't care if vampires find me. Like, he's such a
He's like, it's fine.
yeah, I'm
He talks just like
untouchable.
the fangirls.
He does. He can differentiate.
He's a
between them.
fan.
Yeah,
guy.
of himself.
He's like, I'm so great.
He
But
does
also
think he's
eating
so
people
great.
is bad.
Yeah, and we have like this girl who's like from a vampire family and is looking into vampires. In the book, it's totally different. I was looking at the Wikipedia and I just wasn't getting that vibe. And the one thing I got from the book that didn't come into the movie that I was like, oh, that sucks. And I feel like it's because of when it was made.
Yeah.
Because if it was made today, it totally would have happened. And it's the fact that Akasha is the queen of all vampires and is Aaliyah in this sense. And she is kind of like evil. She's like very evil. She can just kill vampires willy-nilly. And she like just sucks people dry. She has no remorse. She just sees them as like food, which is like, I think it's really irresponsible of her the way that she like does that, because she's gonna run out and then what? Like, I just feel like she was being irresponsible. But in the book, she's more feminist, where she kind of like a really like super intense feminist that doesn't necessarily need to happen. But I thought was cool. Yeah, the one that we get.
It's like interesting.
Yeah, and the fact that she like kind of wants to like wipe men from the planet and just have like ladies.
Yeah.
Or like have majority ladies.
Yeah.
Because she's like, nah, their time is done.
You're just like a king arrogant. Like,
yes, she's like, I just want, like, let's let the ladies do what they got to do.
But yeah, she
cool.
kept saying stuff like that to Lestat, where he's like, I love it. You're just a useless man.
yeah. And
Say
he's
something
like,
stupid again. and
he's like,
yeah,
hey. And she's like, yes, nice. And
such a king.
Yeah, there's some really sexy scenes in a tub. And I totally get how he was like, yeah, I'll just suck the world dry with you, babe.
Yeah.
How do you say no to Aaliyah? Like, honestly. Like, I was like, I guess this is what we're doing. You want the whole world gone? You got it, babe. Here we go.
For you.
Like, anything you want. You don't even have to ask twice. It's already done. Did you go
outside and see all the dead people?
I did it for you, babe. Yeah, I thought that was cool, and we really missed out on it. Because she didn't really have that. She was just like, everyone go away.
Yeah.
But I get it. It wasn't really like a trendy topic. But it's cool that like Anne wrote that.
Yeah.
I think like, and there's a whole like other like, there's like more significant vampire presence in the book.
Yeah.
There's like more important vampires and like the founding of them and like the history.
More of an explanation of like the tree, essentially.
Yeah.
Like there was like that wall that had like an outline of all the different layers of vampire families, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And it was less Lestat. It was like, from what I was gathering from the synopsis, because I did not read it, but it seemed like there was like a lot of other vampires that were involved, and even in the death of Akasha, spoiler alert for 2002, was that in the movie he like pretty much sucks her almost dry, and then but if you kill a like if you suck all of something, you die.
Yeah.
And so he's like gonna do that, and then this other vampire does the last bit. Yeah. But he was like the big point of it, right?
Yeah.
In the book, it's like a bunch of them are doing that, and it's like one of the other vampires that like takes it and like beheads her or something. It was like absurd. But it was really interesting because you have like this history, and there's like witches, and they're like also vampires, and it's like a family. It's like a coven of vampires. It was like it seemed like cool, and I feel like we missed that because we switched out for like this romance, and it was like the first like it is like the first like vampire romance thing that we see that we now see throughout.
Where like, a vampire goes for a human, doesn't want to turn her, has to.
Yep. Because the baby needs to get eaten out of her. No, that doesn't happen here. That happens in Twilight, which is awful. Just in case anyone didn't know, there's a part where she's pregnant and the vampire baby is going to kill her. And then Edward Cullen has to eat the baby out of Bella and then turn her because she is dead now. Because the baby broke her back from inside. And now it's Renesmee, which is the ugliest name. So thank you, Anne Rice, because now we have that. the
Does
world.
it get older?
She does, but slowly.
Or is it a baby forever?
And also so remember when I was afraid about Louis and Claudia?
Yeah.
Well, in this sense, Renesmee, who is an infant, gets imprinted upon by Jacob, who was a former love interest of Bella, who now has like he feels protection for the girl and he's imprinted on her. But as she's going to grow up, he's just going to end up with her. She's a child. She's literally an infant at this point. So she took it the step farther that I was glad that Anne didn't.
Yeah.
And sometimes they take your work and they trash it. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So that's some history lessons for everyone on what Twilight does.
When you can't get with mom, wait 20 years.
Not even. She was gonna grow up and she was gonna stay like 17 forever or something. Like she was always gonna be young. It was wild. I don't even know. It was make believe because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But in this, that didn't happen. But they did rope in this like love story that I don't know if that is in the book. But in this one, I was like, she was really pretty though. That actress was like gorgeous. Everyone was really pretty.
Yeah.
The stat was really pretty. I don't know who the actor is.
So,
either.
just brief aside.
Yeah.
Something bothers me.
Oh no.
Not about like this specifically, but about that idea where it's like that song. You know, the Jonas Brothers sing it. It's like something, something, year 3000.
Yeah.
And they're talking about your great granddaughter. It's like, don't you touch her.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in the future. Find somebody else. That is my
That's my
child's child.
It's such a weird, that's a song?
Yeah, it's like, and if I meet your great granddaughter.
Ew.
Or great granddaughter. It was like
how many years
generations, whatever. That
But that's a different person.
yes,
person
that's
has
what
nothing
I'm
to do with
saying.
me.
Where it's just like, oh wow, is our relationship that shallow that you only like how I look and are hoping, crossing your fingers that I'll have a relative that I've birthed?
God forbid, like my child and my child's child like marry like an ugly man, and then they like the kid gets ugly. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's a
just,
problematic thought process.
Jonas Brothers. Well, we're really.
Well, then, but also Jacob
really
guy.
grinds our gears.
Don't like the one relative and then go for the younger. Ew.
Yeah.
Don't go for Bella's daughter. You liked Bella.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't able to help it, and he didn't like it himself, to be fair, at the beginning. And Bella did like almost punch him or something because she was like, "What?"
It's gross.
in Queen of the Damned, that does not happen.
Yeah.
There's no imprinting on children, and like I said, in an interview with the vampire, there was no skeevy stuff that I saw. And that made me, I was very nervous because things like that exist where we just don't have that line. So thank you, Anne, so much. That the fact that she can go and make her erotic fiction where people are ponies, which is like, do what you do, right? But you're adults. And somewhat there's consent. I don't know how much slaves can have consent, but they might in this story. Versus, because it might be like a figurative slave, because it's like a purposeful one. But in this, she was like, nah. There's eroticism, and then there's just like being a good person.
Yeah.
So thanks. That's great.
Feelings. Yeah, feelings. Yeah, I said feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Okay. And all that spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff.
So if you like it, it's Rockstar Lestat, because he was real cool and hot, and he like climbed down ceilings.
Yeah.
And jammed out on the stage.
Yeah.
Real cool, like.
Rocked out on the stage.
He rocked out, like Hannah Montana does. And that's a deep cut for...
The limo out front. Hottest styles, every shoe, every color.
That's the stat in this movie.
Yeah. When you're
Being
famous, it can be kind of fun.
It's really you, but everyone discovers.
No, but everyone thinks it's not real, so no one ever discovers.
That's true.
Until they're eaten, and that doesn't matter because they're gone.
Who would have thought that a vamp like me would double as a rock star?
You get the best of both worlds. All right, we're done.
was
Sorry.
That was really fun. That really satisfied me. Like it really, it's just some spots I needed. So if you like it, it's that. If you don't like it, it's Moody Louie, because he's the most depressing vampire I've ever encountered. And I watch and read a lot of vampire lit.
Yeah.
Like I even have Sicky Stackhouse novels. Like
Yeah.
I'm deep in there.
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah.
I've watched all of Vampire Diaries. I will not watch the spinoff though.
That's fair.
I draw the line. But for Anne Rice.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
Rockstar Lestat.
Yeah. I gave her Rockstar Lestat too. I am so thankful for her.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, you know, I'm happy that she's like stays true to herself, whatever herself is going to be.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's cool she's active on the thing.
Yeah.
I did read somewhere that like one of her recent books did bad. Like on
She
like
did not handle it
Amazon.
well.
No. She like wrote a letter where she was like, "How dare you?" And I was like I get it, because it is like it's a really personal thing. Like you rate something and people, but sometimes people don't like it. Sometimes you just did it. Maybe it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a little rusty. You haven't been writing vampires in a while.
Yeah.
Your audience has changed. Like it just, you know, and it kind of like rubs people the wrong way when you come back. You don't have to defend yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like let someone else defend you.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I like Anne. What about Interview with a Vampire?
I liked it. Rockstar Lestat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was fun.
I thought it was a Moody Louie. I like that we watched it.
Yes.
I think it's important that we did. But I wouldn't watch it again.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would not watch it again. But, like, I'm happy we did watch it. That's why it's like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
It's just definitely a product of its time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I've seen better vampires now.
I was just, like, happy that I did watch it. I think that was, like, the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. I was very,
Because it's been on
like,
my list for a minute. It's like, I felt, like, rude not having watched it.
Yeah, like, how can you call yourself, like, a true, like, horror person if you haven't watched it? So, yeah. What about Queen of the Damned?
It was a fun time.
Yeah. I give her a Rockstar Lestat.
Yeah.
I loved it. In that, like, it was, like, even with the romance in there, like, I really liked her.
Yeah.
And how she was like, I don't care. And she, like, took risks. And she tried to be like, my boyfriend is a fancy vampire.
Yeah.
And, like, I just love that Lestat didn't really care. And, like, and I like that they, like, didn't know that he was still, like, on their side.
Yeah.
And then I really love Aaliyah just coming in, being her, just, like, wiggling her arms. And I was like, yeah, wiggle.
She was just being super sexy. It was great.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that bathtub scene's ruined me forever. To the fact where I was watching that, I was like, maybe I should read her erotic literature. It's like, is this what it is?
In my house one day I'll have a bathtub.
And then I will do this. No biting.
Well, yeah, but without the biting.
Yeah, but the sexy time.
Yeah.
Where it's like a milky kind of like tub.
Yeah.
And then you just have like a guy who's like lounged out and you're like, I'm in control, I'm the boss, which is what I would read. Because I don't like this nonsense where the boss lady doesn't want to be the boss anymore.
Yeah.
Once a boss, always a boss is how I feel. And I feel like Aaliyah would also agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, what we have to say about Anne.
Yeah. Don't get married.
Delete your kids.
Eat your kids or turn them into kids forever.
Oh, no.
Because you died of plague. Why'd you die of plague?
That does.
Bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather you just eat her and leave her alone now. Let's let her go.
Yeah.
Then she can come to me because I'm dead from plague.
Yeah.